do Fab-all and 10 toes down. So today I have a story time, really a testimony of how good God has been. And I think this is a perfect time to do so. There's so much going on. And I'm trying to just inspire anyone who may be going through tough times and just to let you know that God can bring you through any and all things. So I want to tell you story time and slash testimony of a time that I bled for a year, vaginally bled for a year. And it was one of the most traumatic times in my life, but with faith in God, all things are possible. There were times I didn't think that I would make it through. It was, and having two young children at the time and an elderly mother to take care of, it was especially difficult. So I want to start 10 years prior to the bleeding actually started. I had a dream, which was a dream that, when you have these deep, meaningful dreams, you never forget them. And it was, it was just like so surreal, the dream. And these are prophetic dreams. When you have a hard time explaining them, you don't know what it's about. But in the dream, which I had the dream in 2004, and the bleeding actually started in 2014. So, and at the time, I didn't know what the dream meant, but it was enough to never forget. And well, I have almost photographic memory, as it is over my life. So dreams, especially that are prophetic, I never forget. And there's a dream that I had when I was probably 6 or 7 years old that I never forgot, and it's very meaningful as well. And we'll get to that in story times and testimonies to come. But it all works. All things work for the glory of God, and I'm here today as a living testimony. Because every day that I live is a living testimony. There's so many times where in the natural you would think I would not be here. There's times when, if you knew and when you know, you're like, oh, are you still here? Sometimes it's mind blowing to me too, because I will just think of the things that I've been through. Just, oh, and I just thank the Lord in that moment. And it's like, oh my, that's all you can do. That's all you can say. So in 2014, I had a young daughter. In 2004. Who was 4 years old. And we lived in a town over from my parents. It was difficult being, I've never been away from my parents. They're both deceased. But in 50 years, I was never away from my mom until now. So this was, we still went to their house every day, or my mom would come over. So, but it was a time where it was a little, trying time. So we lived, to ourselves. So I had this dream, and in the dream, I'm looking up on a high hill, and Jesus is actually there on the top, and there was small babies going up towards him. And on the other side, I was like to look on the other side, it was a whole flooded area with blood. It was all just blood red. And I'm talking to Jesus, and I'm asking him something. And I look back, and there's like a legion over a sea of, and what I've come to find now, I believe, are angels. And I'm asking Jesus for something. And he says something to me, and then shows me all of the blood turning to water. And then I'm in a scene where I'm at a pond, and there's two other women on either side, and they were washing clothes. And then I started washing the blood from my clothes. And then all of a sudden I got up, and I started running down this corridor. And I said, I have to get back to my children. But at this time I had one daughter, and I knew nothing about having more than one child at that time. And I as I will get to in story times to come, I was told that I wouldn't have children. So I was so blessed to have this one child, and I'm so thankful. So I didn't expect to have any more. So I'm running, so I have to get back to my children. And that's where the dream ends. So, and I got up, and I was telling my mom, I was telling everybody, about this dream, and, I was like, I don't know what it means. So, and for all those years, I didn't know exactly what the dream meant. And storage was full. I had to delete some. So we're back. So, so like I was saying, I didn't know what the dream meant. So, May 2014, I started what I thought was my period. And I've always had heavy periods, but not to this degree. I just started hemorrhaging. And over time you think it's going to stop, but months passed and I'm praying, and I'm still really probably just getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And I just kept bleeding and bleeding, and kept squat. If I would squat with just gallons, a gush of blood and bleeding out pads, I would go through like a whole 40, 50 pads a week. That's how it began. And it just, the stress of life, I don't know, it just kept going. And over time, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk any amount of distance without feeling like I ran a marathon, with my lungs just burning. It felt like I had just ran a marathon just to walk from my bed to the restroom. And I couldn't do anything with my kids. I would just lay in bed and just hear them playing. And at that time, I started a website, a food blog, a website. And I would, make it to the kitchen to sit down. My kids would bring me all the food, and I would make it. And, I could only stand for short periods of time. There wasn't much that I could do. But I would get up every morning, and I would send my nephew an email and make it, to do the little things that I could do. And really, I slept a lot until I came to a point where, really my organs were probably shutting down, for lack of blood. And everything, all of the blood that I had was going to my heart to keep me alive, to keep it pumping. So then I had a candy of theirs, and it was grainy in my mouth, and it made me feel so much better. So then I was like, I had to get that feeling again. I have to find something that will satisfy that. And so I found baking soda, I put it in my mouth, and it was grainy, and it made me feel better. So I didn't realize at that time that I had the pica, and the doctor explained to me that when you're dying and your body, is, he said, goes back to cavemen, wanting something gritty and like a dirt type thing in your mouth, and it would instantly make me feel better. So then I became addicted to baking soda as a way to feel better, and to reassure my mind, body, that I would be okay. So as time went on, and then my mom, she had dementia. She couldn't really do everything that she needed to do, and I didn't realize how bad it was at the time. So she did come to me. He was like, you go to the doctor. I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to the one who made me, which is God, who knows me better than any doctor could. But I knew in time, if it got worse, I would do that for them. I didn't want to leave them because since my dad had passed away, I was the only one who took care of my mom, and she didn't never pay the bill in her life. She didn't know what to do. So, and I was afraid of leaving my children and being stuck in the hospital. I was just making it worse. So one day she told me, I had a dream. She told me, I said, okay. She said that you're sicker than we know, and that you need to go to the hospital. And that's the day I said, okay, I'll do it. And I went. And I'm waiting there. My blood pressure was so high. I saw the look on their face. It went like that. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And which is another miracle blessing. So, but I want to go back for 1 minute. Before that, we had a neighbor. She had just moved in, and her mom had told me she's sitting on it, and that she has a calling. And I said, okay. And she came over. I couldn't do a lot of talking, but her kids would come over and play with my little girl. And she told me, one day you're gonna talk to a lot of people. And I was like, oh no. I said, oh, I'm a little shy. I said, I don't see that happening at all. She said, well, God told me. So I was like, okay. And this was at the time I was sick. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds far-fetched and not like me. So, well, getting back to the hospital, and I was there waiting for the doctors to come, for me. And I was like, I want to go home. I said, and I was bribing my daughters. I was like, I'll make you a nice soul food meal. Let's go. Let's leave here. Let's go. I don't want to stay here any longer. And I put my head down and I asked God. I said, Father, if you have me to stay here, then give me a sign. And the moment I finished that prayer, I opened my eyes and they called me. So they told me, they did some blood work, and they told me, you have to have blood transfusion today. They told me what my blood count was. I had lost over 70% of the blood in my body. And they're like, you walk on your own? I used to fall a lot and, hit my head and stuff like that because you're so weak, you can't really get around. They couldn't believe that I could walk on my own. And I said, yes. And they said, well, okay, we have to check your heart and your kidneys to make sure there's no damage done. And before we could do the blood transfusion, but you have to have it right away. And I said, okay. And my family went home, my mom and my 2 daughters. And they told me that they were going to, I believe, give me 6 pints blood that evening. If they find out that my heart and kidneys weren't damaged, and they came back and said, your kidneys aren't damaged. They were surprised, and your heart's not damaged. So they put me to the hospital. They admitted me, and they did the blood transfusions. I was still bleeding, like gushing blood the whole time. They did all kinds of tests. They did ultrasounds and probes and you name it, and still couldn't find out why I was bleeding. So I got the blood transfusion. I felt better, so much better, from having some blood in my body. And I stayed there for, I believe, either 3 or 4 days. And I had to have a second blood transfusion while I was there. And they still never found out why I was bleeding. They sent me home. And I did feel better, but it was still going. And I said, well, couldn't I bleed out the blood that you just gave me? They said, yes, but they didn't know what else to do. So I went home and, feeling a little more energized because there was nothing like that fading out feeling. You just felt, I don't know. So one night I was just laying in my bed. I was praying to God. I said, please, Jesus, if you'll heal me. I trust you. Full faith. Stand. 10 toes down. Trust him. And he did. He did. And I was waiting for my manifestation of this to stop bleeding. And in the meantime, I was excited to get back to my food blog and, cook. And I was excited. I was up one night and I was going to make some Chinese fried rice. And I had a bottle of soy sauce. So I'm up in there by myself. I'm still a little weak and shaky. So I dropped the bottle and stepped on a piece of glass and hit a main artery in my foot. So I started gushing blood that I don't have. And I called out for my daughter and my mom and my other young daughter who were asleep. My oldest daughter came. She got a cold rag and we put it on and it stopped. With every heartbeat, I was losing blood. And we called the ambulance. They came. There was blood everywhere. That I had just got this blood. Fresh blood, okay? And so I kept praying. I kept believing. I kept... Because they couldn't tell me why. So in that moment, you just have to keep the faith, and God is in control, and all things work for the glory of God, and that's why I'm here today. Because He did heal me. There was times over the years, up until 2018, because we lost everything on in Hurricane Harvey, and so I started hemorrhaging again, and I went back for more tests while being homeless, and me and my daughters were living in a car, and I was hemorrhaging because of stress again. And then one day I just said, because God, I can't do this. So I drove myself to the hospital. They put me in the hospital with my daughters there and gave me some, the doctor, he came, because you need a blood transfusion. I was like, I know. That's why I'm here. I can't breathe, you know. And I had another blood transfusion at that time. And as stress started to wane, and I kept praying and kept believing, and God healed me completely. I haven't had any of these bleeding bouts since 2018. Everybody thought I was going to die. Who's going to take care of your kids and this and that? And I know someone who was being like that and they died. I'm not them. I gave it all to God and He fixed it. By the blood of Jesus, I am here today to tell you this story. I'm so thankful to God. It's been so good to me. He's been so good to me. I think I will end the story here and thank you for hearing my testimony. It is for the glory of God. Not to have a sad story, but just to let you know. Everybody wants a miracle, but nobody wants to go through what it takes to get there. You put your trust in God and that's it. And He will fix it. He will make a way. I thank you for listening. I pray it's a blessing for the hearer. And just know, we have more story times coming. You know, you won't believe. I was blind and deaf and you name it. But God. Thank you. The Fab-all and 10 toes down. See you. Bridget.